If you're a beginner photographer and you've just brought your first camera, you might be overwhelmed by the amount of lens options out there. From wide angle lenses all the way to super telephoto prime lenses. There's a lot of choice. So today I'll explain to you why I think this lens here should be the very first lens you ever buy as a beginner photographer. And I'm gonna start right now. Now, if you're a beginner and you've just started your photography journey, you've just brought your first camera, you might be a little bit overwhelmed. And to be honest with you, I don't blame you. There are a ton of lens options out there. Take Canon, for example. Since they updated their mount back in 2018, they've actually released a stunning 31 lenses. They've released 17 zoom lenses and 14 prime lenses. So where do you start? Well, I actually think it's a simple question. You start with this. This is the Canon 50mm f1.8. Now, it doesn't matter if you're a Canon shooter, a Nikon shooter, a Sony shooter, or even a Pentax shooter, every single camera brand has released a 50mm f1.8 for so many reasons. It's actually coined two terms, the Nifty 50 and arguably my favourite, the Plastic Fantastic. Now, the reason is because it's such a popular lens for so many reasons. And the biggest reason is all to do with price. This lens here, although it's brand new, comes in at just £199. You're right, that's correct, for a lens. Now, you might be surprised if you're a beginner to hear, well, £200 for a lens, but you'll be surprised of how expensive lenses can be. In fact, Canon's most expensive lens, the RF 1200mm f8, will set you back a stunning £22,000, and cinema lenses can go for even more. So a lens to be 200 quid brand new is an absolute bargain. But it's not only to do with price, this lens also has a ton of unique features that, to be honest with you, you won't find on many other lenses at this price point. Now, a lens you've probably already got in your camera bag simply because it came free with your camera is a kit lens. Maybe it's an 18 to 55mm or a 28 to 75mm, something along those lines. And they're usually okay, they haven't got the best sharpness in the world, but obviously they're not really known for that, designed to kind of kickstart your photography career. But the main problem with them is to do with their aperture. Now, if you don't know, aperture is basically the hole in front of your lens, how much light is let through the lens onto the sensor, and it's measured in f-stops. So the wider the aperture, aka the smaller the number, the less light you're going to need to expose your photo correctly. But actually, aperture controls not just the amount of light, but it also controls your depth of field, and they're the two main factors aperture controls. So you can shoot in a low light environment if you have a lens with a wider aperture, but also indirectly create a shallower depth of field. So if you've ever seen these beautiful photos like these ones, they're all shot with a very wide aperture lens. And that is what this 50mm offers you. Versus any other lens pretty much on the market, an f1.8 is remarked as a wide aperture lens. And you can think, you get that for around £200 will blow your kit lens out of the water. And actually, in most situations, a 50mm is roughly the same price as a kit lens. So you can see the value for money of this lens. The image quality aspect is far better than pretty much any lens on the market when you look at price. Now, a 50mm isn't just great because of its aperture. A 50mm is great for its focal length as well. A 50mm focal length both on APS-C cameras and full frame is really, really good. APS-C cameras, you're looking at around 1.5 to 1.6 crop, depending on the camera brand you're shooting with, and that will actually give you a roughly an 85mm focal length, which, in my opinion, is my favourite focal length for portrait photography. Maybe you're a wedding photographer, this is going to be an absolute ideal starter lens if you're interested in portrait photography or wedding photography. But on full frame, you're also going to get a 50mm focal length, and 50mm is roughly what you see every day, how your eyes see. They're kind of, your eyes are a 50mm focal length almost. So if you see a composition and you use a 50mm, you're roughly going to get the right composition from what you see in real life. So it's a really nice for portrait, landscape, street photography. Doesn't really matter what you throw at a 50mm, you're probably going to end up with really good results. So that's another great point to get this lens first, is doesn't matter what type of photography you do, a 50mm is probably going to excel at it. So as you can see, there are many great points of why I recommend getting a 50mm first. But of course, write down in the comments below if you can think of any other lens that beats a 50mm or a Nifty 50 or, my favourite word, the Plastic Fantastic. Make sure to write it down in the comments below. And if you don't already own a 50mm and you're a professional, I'd love to hear why. Why don't you own one? Write it down in the comments below. I've been James for Photo Fever, and I'll catch you guys next time.